Penny series was first introduced in 1909, and as is so often the case in transitional years, mint errors and especially varieties do tend to creep into the picture. So let's take a look at all of the major varieties that exist for the 1909 Lincoln cent. Design varieties are up first, and here the best known and often mentioned VDB coins have to be the obligatory first mention. Victor D. Brenner was responsible for designing the Lincoln cent, the first circulating coin to feature a former president, and issued to coincide with the 100th anniversary of his birth as well. 100 years later, the mint would naturally once again choose to celebrate the birth of the nation's 16th president with the 4-coin Lincoln Bi-Centennial penny set, depicting his life from a humble birth in rural Kentucky, the formative years in Indiana, professional life in Illinois, and all the way to the presidency in Washington, D.C. But back to the wheat cent, which, as I mentioned, was designed by sculptor Victor D. Brenner, and as such, it was by custom his right to place his initials discreetly somewhere on the design. He chose to do so on the reverse of the coin, just between the two wheat stalks at the very bottom, hence the name of the coin, the VDB cent. This was issued in both Philadelphia and San Francisco, but apparently the design ruffled some feathers as the issue had barely hit the coining presses before an order was given to halt production completely. Mint officials decided that the most expeditious way to deal with the problem was to simply remove the VDB from the design altogether, and so was born the first design variety, the VDB and no VDB coin for the 1909 penny. Now today, the VDB coins from either mint are both more sought after and more valuable by sheer virtue of the fact that there were fewer of them minted. The Philadelphia coin is the most obtainable as it saw nearly 28 million coins minted, so you can't exactly call it rare, although compared to the 72 million coins with the no VDB variety example, it is comparatively so, not as easy to find. Now, the San Francisco or S-mint coins, especially the VDB coin on the other hand, is a completely different story. San Francisco minted 1.825 million no VDB cents in 1909, so already a relatively low number for the Lincoln series. But the 1909 S VDB penny only saw 484,000 coins leave the mint before production was halted. In today's market, an average circulated 1909 penny would fetch about $5 to $10. Maybe, with a 1909 VDB coin doubling that to around $10 or $20, moving up from there to a decent graded coin that's, say, the MS64 level. Then the 09 commands a price of $50 to $100 with ease, and the 09 VDB manages to raise that to between $80 and $150 at the same grade point. During 2022, a gem beauty of a coin at the grade level of PCGS MS67 Red was sold at auction for a highly respectable $7,200. Similarly, during 2021, an 09 VDB penny by contrast, graded by PCGS as MS68 Red, which places it at the very top of the conditional census, was sold at auction for an almost unbelievable $56,400. Now, like I mentioned, these San Francisco coins are significantly scarcer, and here prices do start to rise quite dramatically. The 1909 S Lincoln penny in an average circulating grade is already worth around $100 on its own, with an MS64 coin comfortably selling between $600 and $700 each. Then add the VDB initials to the S mint mark, and you are looking at a $1,000 coin in circulating grades already. Stepping up to an MS64, you are starting to look at a $3,500 to possibly $4,500 coin in today's market. 2020 saw the auction of a top-level registry set example of the 1909 S wheat cent in a PCGS slab graded as MS67 Red, selling at auction for $16,800. But the 1909 S VDB cent has to take the crown here as well. During the spring of 2022, a coin graded as MS67 Red by PCGS was sold at auction for no less than $168,000. Now that's hardly all there is. In terms of design varieties, the 09 penny has yet more to offer, and it constantly amazes me that almost no one talks about this either. When it comes to the 1982 penny, it's generally agreed that you have to collect all 7 or 8 varieties, depending on how you count them. The wide and close AM varieties of the 1990s are also very well known, and that's not even broaching the number of large and small date types that managed to pop up through the years. But the 1909 deep and shallow N types largely fly under the radar for some reason. On this coin, you can look at the letter N of United to find that some are shallow cut, where the connecting sections are almost parallel to one another. And then on the design varieties number 2 and 4, you have a deeply cut relief with sharper edges and a more harshly cut, well-defined N, if you would. These appear on both the VDB and no VDB coins as well in both cases. Although the deep cut N VDB coin is unique to Philadelphia, whereas the shallow N VDB as well as the deep N no VDB and shallow N no VDB types are found for all 3 working mints. And because the design variety is not widely sought by most collectors, it does not really detract from or either add value to the coin whatsoever. Now, moving on to double die varieties. There are quite a few to look out for on the 1909 pennies. Beginning with double die reverse varieties, there are about a dozen or so very minor varieties to look out for. But without diving too deep into minutiae, almost all of those fall into one of 2 broader categories, most of which share largely the same characteristics as the ones I'll point out in just a minute. These are distorted or distended hub doubled coins. The first is an example of a class 2 or distorted hub doubled coin. Here, the doubling is clearly seen on the letters of E pluribus unum. This is boldest on the various U's within the motto, as well as the L of pluribus. Again, the base of the letter E is also a point of interest for this variety. As I mentioned already, there are numerous other varieties that share similar characteristics, but on this specific coin, die markers include a small die gouge on the base of the L in pluribus, a diagonal die scratch towards the left of the T in cent, and a long diagonal scratch from west to east through the C of cent. But not all of the varieties will share these exact die markers, but the doubling will appear similar on most. The other grouping I mentioned are the distended hub doubled coins, or the class 6 doubled coins. These may be a little more difficult to diagnose, but your primary focus should still be on the letters of E pluribus unum. But in most cases, the letters will simply appear thicker than they ought to be. This is especially true in the present example, where all the letters appear to be fat or really thick at the base of the letters. The dots separating the words are especially noticeable with fantastic doubling here, where they are not so much round, but rather elongated. The tops of the letters 1 are also similarly affected. Unfortunately, none of these double die varieties are listed in the Cherry Picker's Guide, and as such, neither PCGS nor NGC will attribute them as varieties. They'll be happy to slap them for you, but they will not attribute the variety on the label. If you're looking to grade one of them as a variety, then Anax might be a better option for you. Because of this low market recognition factor, the premium for these varieties over the base coin is also relatively low. Moving on from there to more recognizable or better known varieties, we find a double die obverse variety for the 1909 VDB cent. This is again a distended hub doubled coin. As a result, the defining characteristic is additional thickness towards the design elements. In this case, the letters of Liberty are all thicker in their vertical sections than compared to a normal coin. But the numbers on the date are the real stars of the show, with additional thickness and, in an early die state, even fair separation lines on the tails of both number 9s. Depending on the die state of the specific coin that you might have, die markers for this variety might include die chips inside the cavities of the letter B in Liberty, as well as similar effect on the R of the same word. Although it should be noted that the die chip in the R specifically is also found on non-variety coins as well. In later die states, clash marks can also be seen towards the right of Lincoln's throat, as well as the corresponding clash marks on the lower end of the C in cent on the reverse of the coin. In 2021, a coin like this, graded by PCGS as MS67 Red, was sold at auction for $9,600. However, the 1909 VDB cent has a far stronger and more impressive double die variety to look for as well. This coin is the result of offset hub doubling, with a fairly strong spread on the obverse of the coin. Most of the doubling here displays towards the southeasterly direction to a lesser or greater degree. There is some doubling to be seen on Lincoln's lips to start with, although this is definitely not the strongest doubling on this particular variety by far. We move then to the letters of Liberty, where the B, the E, R, T, and Y are all doubled quite nicely, with the doubling becoming stronger and more defined as you move closer to Lincoln's shoulder, or to the center of the coin, if you will. The strongest doubling, however, is reserved for the date, or at least the first 3 digits of the date. Here, there is very bold doubling on the number 1, the first 9, as well as the 0, and this is definitely your primary place of interest when looking for this particular variety. During the 2018 ANA's World's Fair of Money, a coin matching this description, graded by PCGS as MS67 Red, was sold at auction for $12,000. Having dealt with the double die varieties, we can now move on to the San Francisco Mint in order to locate the repunched mint mark variety coins available for this date. There are 2 repunched mint mark variety types to look for here. Both are located on the regular 1909 S, or the no VDB type coin. First up is the very well-known and Red Book listed S over horizontal S type, where the initial S mint mark was placed onto the working die sideways, or in a horizontal orientation. The second impression was thus necessitated in order to correct the orientation of the S in its upright position. Looking towards the lower rounding of the S to see what remains of the serif from the initial S impression, the biggest challenge with this variety is in finding a coin sufficiently early die state as to see the horizontal orientation of the initial impression, as this may fade with later die states, though it does remain very clear nonetheless that the mint mark was repunched. For this coin, the finest known example, standing at a grade of MS67 Red from PCGS, was sold at auction in 2018 during the sale of the ESM collection for $24,000. The second repunched mint mark variety from the 1909 S Lincoln Penny is perhaps not as widely known as the previous coin, owing, I suspect, to the fact that it is omitted from the popular Red Book, although it is far scarcer to locate and resultingly in greater demand by specialist collectors at least. The initial S mint mark in this case was placed towards the northeast of the final position, with clear doubling on the top serif, as well as the corresponding orientation on the bottom serif. Although in the case of the bottom serif, it is not quite as visually dramatic. Similar doubling is then also present towards the lower rounding of the S as well. In 2019, one of these variety coins, a beautiful fiery copper red example slabbed by PCGS as MS66 Red, was sold at auction for $3,290. And that largely concludes all of the variety types of note for the 1909 Lincoln cent. Subscribe to WNN and activate notifications to know when new videos are released. For the World Numismatic News, I am Numisman saying thank you for watching, stay safe, keep collecting, and have a fantastic day.